Thanks for stopping by the channel, guys. Welcome to my review for Scream 6. So, I should start with the caveat that I'm not a huge horror guy unless it's done well. But Scream is my favorite horror franchise and one that I actually care about and follow. Scream's the only horror franchise I see that's actively trying to understand and kind of reinterpret its material every movie. Obviously, Ghostface has to chase somebody with a knife. That's gotta happen. But the mask can be worn by anyone, and most likely it's somebody in your friend group that you know. So that's what keeps Scream more fresh and interesting than other horror franchises. You know Jason's the killer, you know Freddy's the killer. In Scream, you don't know who the killer is, and it's going to be kind of a twist. It's going to be kind of a mindfuck, usually. So, Scream 6. Spoilers from here on out. Obviously, we're a few movies down the road in this franchise, and it had a major reboot with Scream 5 last year. I call it Scream 5. I refuse to call it Scream. I wasn't totally on board with the handoff that was happening in Scream 5. I just wasn't really in on the new group fully. But this movie did a lot of work to bring that group to the center of the film and kind of make you like them as that core four. The movie did pull some of its punches because of that. They probably didn't want to kill off some of that core four in the first film that they branded it, which I think is honestly a good move for the series. You don't want to just kill off all the characters just for body count in one movie. I think if you want to prolong this series for at least a couple more films, it's good to give us some more characters to kind of latch onto in that group. But if some core members aren't getting killed off in the next few entries, I agree that it's starting to feel a little bit too safe and it's starting to feel not like Scream. The movie sets up a new generation of rules, obviously. This one has to do with franchises, and they say everything needs to be bigger than the last time, which this movie does appeal to that standard. But it also says that no one is safe, and basically every main character in this movie is safe. So they're setting up the rules, but they're kind of not really following them. So a little bit of that raw unpredictability in those early Scream movies that they had is kind of sacrificed here to kind of build out the franchise a little bit more in this stage. Scream 6 definitely feels like an homage to Scream 2. The cast goes off to college, they make new friends, there's a new killer on the loose. Also, the killer happens to be a family member of the killer from the previous movie. So that's kind of another link that makes it feel like Scream 2. And Randy dying in that second movie, it is an extremely shocking moment, and it does make it feel like nobody is safe. But him dying left a pretty big gap in Scream 3 for just characters. They didn't have anybody that you knew or cared about anymore. So they brought him back in the video. Obviously, they needed to try to get him to give you some rules again. But honestly, I think that might have been a little bit of a jump the gun moment in Scream 2 to just give you another body when they should have maybe let Randy kind of take a little bit of the center. If they planned more Scream movies like they thought they had, they maybe should have taken that into account. Melissa Barrera is starting to grow on me as this new final girl. I'm sure if the creators knew how huge Jenna Ortega was going to be in this moment, she'd probably have that lead role. But she brought that fun sister dynamic. I kind of like how it's a dual protagonist role now with those sisters. I also came out with a slightly new appreciation for the Billy Loomis backstory that's given to Melissa Barrera's character. At first, I was like, why do we need this kind of hammy backstory given to our main? But it brings that psychotic nature to this character that I think a lot of people wanted Sydney to reveal, but it didn't really make sense for her character. And I feel like it strangely honors the new generation of watchers to have a darker, more knowledgeable protagonist now. So back to the opening scene. These are the staple of every Scream movie. Back to the original with Drew Barrymore, the iconic opening. And I think that this is one of the more successful Scream openings. Tony Revolori being immediately revealed as the killer was pretty shocking and kind of made me question if we were going to have a whole perspective shift in this movie for Scream 6, like a whole new different take. It didn't go full on killer's perspective, which is probably good to bring it back to form. But the layers of deception that are kind of being lifted that whole opening sequence really enticed me, brought me into the movie, engaged me very quickly, and then made me question who the killer was. I also thought New York made for a fresh setting, some more inventive kills, and it added a fresh dating angle on the series, which it's always kind of had. I thought the ladder scene was a pretty cool death. It was one of the more interesting horror house exits I've seen. It brought the New York City of it all too, with them being in the buildings next to each other. I also liked the portrayal of the media in this movie. The media manipulation has always been a kind of a vital part of the Scream franchise, with Gale Weathers obviously being center to that. Here she becomes kind of the voice of investigative truth in the age of social media, these viral clips that are kind of being snipped and showing Sam in this light. She's on her side through this movie. I loved her cockily dodging the first punch and then just getting smoked by the second punch. That was a really funny touch. And it's just nice to have at least one of the core members still around. It was cool how she actually got her own phone call with Ghostface too. I never realized that she hadn't had a phone call before, but check that box. She deserves it, and it's nice that she got that moment. I will say you can tell that they probably had Sydney in the script early on, and then when she kind of decided she wasn't about this one or whatever, whatever went behind the scenes, they just kind of flicked her out of that and brought Kirby in. You can kind of see some of the moments in the script that they might have had a different direction going, and then they just kind of pivoted. But I was pretty glad to see Kirby back here. 4 is actually my favorite one besides the OG. So I'm glad they're still referencing the characters and bringing them back. I'm also glad that they had another movie expert here with Kirby back. It made for one of the most crowd pleasing moments where they're just flexing movie knowledge on each other and then just kind of like nodding respect. That's great. That's good shit. I think Kirby is a pretty cool character in the Scream universe. She kind of occupies that final girl role and the Randy Meeks movie knowledge role. She's a pretty cool remix of both of those characters. And her as an up and coming FBI agent in this movie actually worked for me pretty well. And it's pretty smart in my book to bring her back now. She's kind of center in those Scream cases, so she can always kind of come back whenever she needs to. And there was a second there that they got me and made me consider that she was the killer for just a second. So well done. I feel like ultimately the series will have to get Nev Campbell back in the end. I mean, come on, she's the final girl. I think this is a series that deserves a true ending in my opinion, and I hope that they can work their way towards something like that. I also just don't want to see the series get doled down with every iteration, too many movies where they can't live up to the expectations of the last anymore. And I think we all just deserve that final Scream movie with Stumacher pulling off the mask, revealing he's the ultimate ghost face. Sydney there. I need it. I need it. The film had some nice touches with bringing back some of the original masks and artifacts of the previous Scream killers, but really it's just a continuation of Richie's vision from Scream 5. The reveal that the killers in this film were Richie's family, it worked for me. And I did like the fact that there were 3 killers this time, which is a pretty big subversion of this series if you care about the lore of it all. It's usually 2. Oh shit, that's 3! But I guessed the cop and the roommate angle pretty early on. Even once the roommate died, I was like, we didn't see enough of that when she's responsible for this. So I was kind of just waiting for the why of it all, like why did they team up, you know? And then they revealed that the other brother was there too, but that was kind of just he was kind of just strung along for the story, it seemed like. And the reveals start to get pretty explanatory towards the end there. I mean, they whip off the mask and then just start monologuing, you know. The character shifts seem a little sudden, or they were just hidden extremely well through the first half of the film. But like I said, the family reveals worked for me, and it does kind of harken back to that homage of Scream 2. But I like this one, guys. I mean, it was a solid recommendation for me. I think I wouldn't really say that there's like a terrible Scream movie. I need to rewatch the third one, but right now, I'd say if I had to give them a ranking in order from best to worst, I'd say number 1, obviously the OG, you can't beat it. It set the standard. Number 4, this movie fucking smacks. I don't understand the hate for it. This was my generation of Scream. Maybe that's why I like it so much. It was the one that kind of like brought me in again. But this movie is fucking good, man. And it's so like this one has a good hook, good mystery, good kills, good drama, good suspense. This one's good. Number 6. Yeah, I know it's the freshest. Obviously, might be some recency bias here. But this one is pretty successful at redefining the franchise and kind of re-engaging a lot of my expectations into it. So I think that this is actually one of the more solid entries into the franchise, and I'm going to put it at number 3 for me. Number 2, this is obviously the follow-up to the OG, so it has a lot of that magic still attached to it. The ideals, the characters, the intent is all still there. It just doesn't feel like a full fruition of what the first one had. It kind of just feels like that cash grabby, another idea franchise type movie. I haven't watched it in a while, but this one never really engaged me like the first one did. And the reveals at the end seemed kind of forced, a little dumb. And I just said that this one was good though, and it harkens back to that one. But I gotta rewatch too. But right now it's towards the bottom, but still pretty good. After that, we got number 5. This is the major reboot that they tried to force last year, and at first I was just really against it. I liked the movie, I didn't love it, and I didn't think it was a good continuation of the franchise. But now that they've kind of settled in number 6, I'm happy about what Scream 5 is. And lastly, number 3. I've watched this one time. I do need to rewatch it, but this one was just so meta and so outside of what the source was that it just kind of missed the mark for me. I think I should rewatch it again because maybe there's some little gems in there, but number 3 is it's definitely the bottom of the list. But yeah, as you can tell, I like the Scream movies. They feel fun. They feel current too when they come out. I mean, Revelori being an Argento obsessed loser, that was a fun little nugget there for movie obsessed people. And then throwing shade at all the letterbox users. I mean, I get it. I get it. I got the joke. I'm in on it. I got it, man. Speaking of which, if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, link in the description down below.